All right. So I'm going to take my brace off here and see if this actually took the bow. This, if you remember, this had a bow this way. This was sagged down in the middle because of that piece being cut out of there. Fixing the hole was really the goal, but I was hoping that I could level this out. If I put a level across right now, and I'm just looking at, I'm not looking at it being level, I'm just looking at the amount of space there is underneath the center here where that hole was, and if this is just a straight line. Other than the fact that it needs more fiberglass added, that is a straight line. So I think I'm going to try to pull this out and see what happens. It may sag right back down, it may not. But anyway, that's where I'm at. We'll see what happens here. All right, well that looks pretty good. It, I have all four of those nuts loosened up on there. And I knew it was gonna have to come off to do this fiberglass work on the top and get everything sanded down and get a little bit of glass in there to level it out. But my concern was how much this was gonna sag afterwards, and it looks pretty good. I don't think I could have done any better than that with the knowledge I have and the know-how. Like I had mentioned, I'm no fiberglass expert by any means. I've done a few jobs, and you know, they've come out all right, but doesn't mean that they always will. Yep, that looks pretty good. I have a little bit of space right here and a little bit of space right here, but it could be partially the taper. It could be that this section of the fiberglass back here is curled in. My main goal was this back portion was actually sagging down. And if you measure across straight down on multiple ends, it does taper up on the corners where it rolls in. But this was sagged down a pretty good amount, probably a good 1/4 of an inch in the middle this had a sag. So to get rid of that is great. Taking out these two braces that I have in here, I'm probably gonna wait until I at least finish this up. I'll do it before I do any painting or priming or anything. And I'll let it sit probably a couple days so that if it's gonna move around a little bit, it does it before there's any paint on it. Just so it doesn't, I mean, it's obviously got cracks everywhere, but you know, why crack the brand new stuff too? So that's pretty good. I think my plan here now is I'm gonna, with this brace off, I'll pull those bolts out. I got a lot of nuts on them, so I'll pull those all apart. And then I'll let it sit a day or two and just see if this starts to sag in or anything. I kind of don't think it will. But I'd like that to kind of sit where it's going to sit with the body upright and, you know, the weight of the fenders pulling down here before I go and put more glass on top of this. Okay, so I've got the back end of this all sanded down. I just kind of roughed it up enough so that we can clean it and get more fiberglass in. Right in here, I've got a dip that I've got to kind of figure out how to straighten out here. I've got, obviously, the seam all the way around where this hole was is going to need a little bit of glass and resin and some structural putty to get this straightened out. if we get a straight edge on here, you can see there's a little gap there, but it's really only enough for pretty much one layer of fiberglass to go in there, and then some sanding. If we look at this area, a little bit worse. We've got a little bit of a hole there, I guess you could say. The overall shape here is not right. So I'm gonna do the best I can with fiberglass. I've got some stuff cut out to try to fill this in and get this a little more to shape. And then I'll probably put some structural putty over the whole top of this. It's basically like body filler for fiberglass, kinda, in a sense, where if you need to go a little bit thick, you can, because it has you know, fiberglass cloth basically ground up into it. I also ran right down through here on both sides. I am going to put a little bit of structural putty right down in the seam where this lip starts and the original portion of the body is, just to fill that in and kind of smooth it out. And then I should be able to sand it smooth afterwards. Not a huge issue. It's worked out great the way it is right now, but you know, the best I can make it now, the better off it'll be later. So so that's where I'm at. I'm gonna go mix up some resin. I'm gonna see if I can get something done here to kind of straighten this out, and see what I can do to kind of start filling this. This is a little high in the middle and low on either side. I tried kind of grinding it down, but we'll have to see if I can fill the sides and then do one over the top. All right, so I've wiped everything down with some acetone just to get the grease and dust from sanding and everything else off there. So I'm gonna start, I mixed up a small batch of resin. I'm gonna start trying to fill that in. All right, so I've got this glass is all dry. I actually built it out more than I needed to because I gotta try to figure out where this edge is gonna be. I've got this relatively flat. I think the rest of it I can fill in with the structural putty. I gotta clean up my edges. I did some structural putty just to try it along this edge here where the original fiberglass meets the new fiberglass, and it smoothed right in really nice. And that came out great. I don't know if you can actually see it, but it's basically appears to be one piece just coming down this whole section here. Maybe you can see it a little better down there. But I'm pretty happy with that. So my next step, I'm gonna bring I'm gonna roll the whole body outside and start grinding that section flat. I'm gonna go straight across here and get this so that this is all level. And that'll probably give me like a hard edge out along here. And then I'm gonna come in here and do the same thing with this. I don't actually think that I'm anywhere close to bringing this edge. This needs to still come forward that much probably. So once this is all smoothed out, I'll probably throw some more glass in here or possibly just the structural putty might be enough. But either way, I need to build this way out to here probably, come up a little higher, and then this whole thing, it's not a 90, it's a radiused edge. So once I get that all built up, I'm going to try to radius it, and then we'll see if I can get it to blend all in here. I probably won't film grinding this all out because it's really not anything great. It's literally just me standing there for a half hour getting fiberglass dust everywhere. So I'll bring you back after it's all done. All right, so I've got this all ground out, and I've taken some acetone and wiped it down. From there, I've made marks where I have low areas. And basically, let me see if I can do this with one hand, but basically what I've done is I take this ruler, and it's pretty flexible, and I can't hold the other side, but if I pinch the other side in, you can see where there's, you know, there's a gap here. There is a slight gap along the entire thing, but to get this radius so that it curves, it comes in to the center right in here and then back out. I think it's pretty good. I've also taken and looked at it this way, where, you know, you throw a ruler across here and you can see your low spots. So I've done the same. I've marked, like, I've got a low spot right in here, little low spots in here. So I'm gonna mix up some structural repair putty, because I think this is it's too small of a low spot to add more mat to fill this in. So I'm gonna mix up some repair putty and try to blend this out. Basically, this stuff is gonna work almost like Bondo, but it's fiberglass. And it's really designed to be structural. So it'll turn into basically this exact same thing. I've got to skim just a little bit across here inside this lip right in here. You can see there's a little bit of an opening in there. So I'll get a little bit in there, and then I'll come back through. I've got, as I was grinding, you might be able to see it, you might not. I've basically dug a trough right in here that's going to need to be filled in, and all up in through here needs to be smoothed out. But that might be something I finish off with, like a regular body filler once I get to that point. I'm just trying to structurally build this whole corner back up. So let me mix up some of that. All right, so here's the stuff I'm using. Structural repair putty. It's made, so the resin that I'm using through this whole project is laminating resin, polyester. So this is made to directly work with that. If I open this up, let me grab a hook here. If I open this up, it just basically looks like, I don't know, a weird toothpaste, I guess. That's all I've used out of it, is a little tiny amount. So, and I'm just putting it on cardboard. Cardboard's not ideal because it slightly absorbs some of it, but I'm doing real small amounts at a time. On the directions on this, they're telling you to put 1% of hardener in it. It uses the same hardener as I'm using on the resin. And it's 1% hardener, so they're basically saying 14 drops for 1 ounce. So that's what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna scoop out approximately 1 ounce. It's probably, I don't know, kind of rough. This is kind of a hard thing to do, to measure something like this. I'm basing it on, this is a quart, so. And then you just mix this up just like body filler, really. It's a little weird compared to body filler because it's got ground fiberglass in it. All right, so that's 14 and a hair over probably. And it doesn't, like, you know, when you mix Bondo, it kind of sucks in the hardener. This doesn't seem to do that. So I'm probably adding more hardener than I should be, because I know that the cardboard is going to absorb some. And then you're just trying to fold it in, just like you do with body fillers. Fold it into this and get it mixed up well. And I know this amount that I've mixed is definitely not going to be enough to finish this, I don't think. But it should be enough to get me started and get some stuff going, and then It takes a little longer to cure than I'd like. Maybe if it was, 75 degrees in here or something, it'd be faster. But you can see it's starting to change kind of like to a greenish from that bright blue. So it's starting to darken. And then you're just spreading it the same way you would any other kind of filler. And I'm gonna probably spread a little thick right here because I'm trying to build up this area. Not lose it all. Right here, I'm just trying to get up in that little groove that I mentioned, between the 2 layers of glass here. Just fill in that little seam there. All right, that's all I've got left on this this batch. I'm gonna have to mix up another batch to try to fill in down in here. I'll get this all filled. It's gonna have to be sanded down, filled multiple times. So I'll bring you back as we get closer to it being done. All right, so fiberglass is all set here. I've smoothed this out the best I could. It's pretty good. I have it just slightly lower than the gel coat area, which is obviously lower than the paint area. But I believe this is pretty flat all the way along. I've hit it with a 40 grit sandpaper because my next step here is to put just a skim coat of body filler over it so that what I'm hoping is I can get it pretty much even with the gel coat all the way around. So it's really not that much. You actually can't even feel it. But there is some level of recess here between the fiberglass and the gel coat. I had a pretty tough job getting this straight here. So this lip here isn't a full 90 degree. It kind of comes out a hair, but no matter what I did, this seemed to want to come out further. So I ended up getting into it with the band file and really ate up at all of that fiberglass in there. And I think I've got it pretty good. See at that angle, there might be a little bit of a recess right in here and a recess right in here. And then on top of that, this entire area starts in this corner, slopes down this way, and then back up that way. So the middle of the body is right here. And I'm not positive that this is exactly, angled this way along this body line. But I think it's the best I can really do with this. I suppose if I was going to, repaint this whole body, I would put probably a little bit more time into straightening that out and getting it perfect. But where I'm just looking to match the paint in here and touch up a few of the really bad chips and overall leave this body just the way it is, I think this is probably more than most people would have done with it. And this is very strong now. We've got, if I get back here with the with a ruler across it, you can see just a little bit of light coming through right there. That's our gap that I need to try to get some body filler into. It's probably about it looks bigger, but it's probably about a 1/16 of an inch, somewhere around that range. And if you remember when I started and there was a big hole right here, this section on either side that was remaining was actually down a good 1/4 of an inch. If I go across the whole body now, I am still down a little, but it's very minor. It's a very small amount now. And maybe once the little bit of filler, a little bit of primer, paint, stuff like that, I'll fill it up a little bit. But we'll go from there. I'm going to mix up some body filler right now and we'll get going. All right, there's my first coat. Kind of messy, a little sloppy going on. My main thing was to try to feather in or out in this area and give myself enough that I can sand down. I'm gonna have to, once this is sand down, I'm probably gonna have to do at least one, maybe two more layers, and possibly a little bit of spot putty around the edges where there's some, you know, little spots. I did fill in right in this area on both sides because I had a little bit of a transition between this flat surface and this groove. And there was some kind of, let's say, pock marks, I guess, in the fiberglass that I just wanted to get filled in with something. I'll come back, I'll sand those down by hand and get that so that it's just a very small amount in the little pock marks. This all come out good. This flat area looks good. I may need even just a slight bit more to build it up. I'm not sure exactly how thick I am. I have a tendency to try to overwork this type of stuff, and you really only get a 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes tops, depending on the temperature, before this starts getting where you can't work with it anymore, and it'll start to kind of peel up as you're moving it along. It'll kind of come up from the substrate underneath. So that's first coat of body filler. We'll let that cure. It takes 20 minutes to cure off. I'll probably just leave it overnight and sand it down tomorrow morning. All right, guys, so I got the body filler work all done, and I got this pretty well smoothed out. I threw some primer in this area just to kind of, I guess, seal off the body filler that's in here and everything, just so it doesn't get any moisture or whatever. I know the primer is probably going to suck some in anyway, but and I've got the lid kind of test fit on here just to see, you know, how everything's going to be, and it looks pretty good. I think my next step here is I'm going to pull off the threaded rod, the struts, the stabilizer struts that I have in here. And I think the first thing I want to do on this, before I pull anything off, I want to mark everything. I want to measure everything and just make sure that, you know, I know what it is right now. And then when I take this out, we can see if all this effort to take out this sag has been corrected, or if it's just going to flop right back into the position it was in. I think we're probably going to correct some, but I do think some of it is probably going to move back to where it was. So let me get set up for that. What I'm going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark all of my studs with some orange paint here. And I don't know if it's going to stay on there when I take the nut off. There might be some left in the threads. Really, all I'm trying to do is I want to see where the length of this threaded rod overall, and I'm going to measure underneath. Because if this body sags back in or pops forward, I forget which side was which at this point, but we had the sag in the middle from the hole, and then each of the fenders was pushed in or out. And I used the rod to pull them in or push them out. If it moves and I think it's worth doing, I may make a body strut to go in here that'll be in permanently and leave it in there. It would probably have to be done once I have like an engine in place and everything else. But I want the length so that I know exactly what I would need to make, and I'd probably just make it out of like a round tube or something and weld up some brackets. But let me get all these marked, and I'll climb under and do that too. All right, here's everything. I got my paint on all my rod. I don't know if it'll stay, like I said. And I've measured from here to here, and from here all the way over to here, and plus this rod. And I've got those measurements written down too. All right, so with the level right on the corners of the body, I've got it right out here on either side, right up on the corners where I've been measuring this. This is what we've got for a sag. And if you remember when we started this project, there was a giant hole here, but basically creating a flat surface, it was either a quarter or like between a quarter and a half inch of sag there. So I'm gonna see, what do we got here? we've got, well, it looks like a whole lot in the camera. It's not, it's not that bad. It looks like about, it's probably about 1/8 of an inch in there, I would say. It's kind of hard to show you that. The light doesn't want to sit in there. But it looks like about 1/8 of an inch. So I'd say we made a pretty good correction on that. I don't see the sag coming back when I pull this stuff apart, but you know, it may, but let's see what we got. All right, so let me take some measurements straight in. I'm just going to go straight in from this bottom edge on either side right to the bottom edge of the body, so that we'll have a good idea of where we're at. So that's 21 inches on that side. And on this side we've got probably about 20 3/4 on this side. So there's a 1/4 inch difference between these two. All right, so I think what I want to take out first is I'm going to pull this piece of threaded rod out of here. When I put this one in, the whole point of it was this was spread here, which I should take a measurement there too. So get right to the corner. We're 19.5 across the bottom of the opening. So it was spread out right there, so my plan was that would, or what it did do, when I tightened this up, it actually pulled the bottom of this in. So let's release it and we'll see how bad things get here. All right, we've got that out of there, and it appears to be still at 19.5. I think this is going to be one of those situations where I got to let it sit probably overnight too, maybe even for a couple days. We might be starting to spread a little bit there, but I definitely want to let it sit for a little bit, so that if it's going to spread and move around, then I know it, and if I've got to add in some kind of a support in there, I can do that. Yes, I mean, it still looks pretty good. I don't think the gap got any bigger yet. So, okay, we'll get brave here, and we'll take out these struts here. Start taking the nut off, and it doesn't feel like it had a whole lot of pressure on it. So hopefully it kind of holds in where it was. And the paint did stay there, so that's good. right, there's one out. I'm just gonna throw this hardware back on here just so I know what went where. And on the back side of this, I'm gonna have to touch up the black paint because obviously where these washers and brackets and things were, there's no paint there. So, but that's no problem. You get the other side. All right, well right now, everything's sitting where it was before I took them off. I think if this is gonna move, it's gonna need to sit for a couple days and then maybe it kind of flexes back. I feel like in this direction with that cross brace, which I didn't think was doing a whole lot, I feel like that was the one that seemed to move a little bit at least, because we were at 19 and a half there. And I'm right there. I'm still 19 and a half. I might have lost a 16th or so. But pretty good. We'll let that sit and let the body relax for, a day or two before we start moving on to anything else. And come back and we'll measure it again just to see if we were successful in fixing the sag. We definitely fixed the hole because that's great. It came out really nice. But fixing the sag was kind of a secondary thing in the whole repair process. So I'll bring you back. All right. So about a week later, and I've just measured all the same measurements again, and everything still looks exactly the same as it did when we took the struts out, the threaded rod. So I'm happy with that. I'm pretty convinced this thing's not gonna flex back to the way it was. Next step, as you can see laid out here, we are working on matching this paint. It's given us a little bit of trouble, but we'll get something close hopefully soon, and we'll get back after it. Thanks for watching.